to use alternative routes, namely the Northern Bypass and the Nairobi-Thika Superhighway, as affected made so far for the construction of a bridge, as Aria mentioned. Honorable Speaker, regarding the reasons for the inordinate delay in the rebuilding of the bridge and the steps being taken to expedite the construction to avert further sufferings, the ministry submitted that the delay in the construction of the bridge has been occasioned by the unavailability of funds for the same. 6. Further, the ministry wishes to request Parliament to consider providing budgetary allocation for this bridge alongside other crucial areas similarly affected by the flooding that impacted most parts of the country earlier this year. The ministry undertakes to construct the bridge as soon as funds are made available. Honorable Speaker, I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Kingara. Are you satisfied?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for according me this opportunity to respond and as per the statement from the chairperson for roads. Mr. Speaker, I'm comfortable with the first paragraph whereby they went in at a good speed and came up with an estimate. But Mr. Speaker, may I open it this way? They have given us an alternative route to use as they work on the bridge. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, where they are sending us is Northern Bypass and then the Thika Superhighway, which are so clogged in the morning and the evening. And note, Mr. Speaker, my concern was because most schools are on the other side of the road or of the bridge. So it will be very difficult for pupils and students to accommodate their day-to-day activities, noting that the Thika Superhighway in the morning and the Northern Bypass, including the Eastern Bypass, are clogged for more than 3 hours. So, Mr. Speaker, my request is if they can use the emergency fund, because noting also, Mr. Speaker, the said bridge is the only conduit for 3 wards. And this is Biashara Ward, Gatongora Ward, and Getodua Ward. So you can see, Mr. Speaker, the 3 wards are already locked. And I wish that maybe they use emergency fund if they were to facilitate us rather than frustrating us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
SGK.
Honorable Speaker, I sympathize with the situation that the people of Roido constituency in that part of Honorable Kingara's constituency are facing. And we have asked the ministry to prioritize that project and avail any funds that are within their reach to be able to address that challenge. Honorable Kingara's constituency is one of the most populous constituencies in the country, if not the most populous, and we will push the ministry officials to ensure that that bridge is reconstructed. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader, your Thursday statement. Osoro, are you issuing on behalf of the leader?
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Go ahead.
I'm holding brief for the Majority Leader for the usual Thursday statement. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order number 42-2A, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, 24th September 2024, to prioritize business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, with regard to the business for Tuesday next week, the House is expected to consider the following bills, if not concluded today. Committee of the whole House is on consideration of safety and feed safety control coordination bill 2023, consideration of Senate amendment to the statutory instruments amendment bill of 2023. The Honorable Speaker will be having the second reading of the following bills, if they will not be concluded today: the Technopolis Bill of 2024, the Kenya National Library Service Bill 2023, and the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, which is Senate Bill number 14 of 2023. Additionally, Honorable Speaker, Debate will also be undertaken on the following motions, should they not be concluded today. 1, consideration of the Senate amendment to the Food and Safety and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill of 2023, consideration of Senate amendments to the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill of 2023. 3, first report on the implementation status of the House resolutions on the committee reports and public petitions. Report on the alleged unfair trade practices by foreign investors in Kenya. Second, report on employment diversity audit in public institutions. Report of the extraordinary session of the 6th Pan-African Parliament, that is PAP. Consideration of reports on financial statements of state corporations of the Nyanza region, Honorable Speaker. And finally, the consideration of session of paper number 5 of 2023 on the national policy on labor migration. Honorable Speaker, in accordance with the provisions of the Standing Order number 42A5 and 6, I wish to convey that the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry is scheduled to appear before the House on the afternoon of Wednesday, 2nd October 2024 to respond to the questions. 1, question number 3 or 4 of 2023, by the member for Alego Usonga, the Honorable Samuel Atandi, regarding issuance of alliances for construction of residential property on plot number LR number 33734/338 along Othaya Road, Kileleshwa, by the National Environment and Management Authority without public participation. Question number 02924, by the member for Maragua, the Honorable Wamaua, regarding report on the Koech, commonly known as Mandazi, regarding the presence of Lalela Company Limited and Naraitoi Company Limited that are engaging in large-scale irrigation-based farming along Amalo River and cloud seeding activities. Honorable Speaker, the Minister will also be answering question number 106 to 2024 by the member for Westlands, the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, regarding the measures put in place to reclaim, safeguard, and sustain all riparian areas and vulnerable ecosystems within the country. Further, the Honorable, the Cabinet Secretary will also be responding to question number 107 of 2024 by the member for Nakuru County, the Honorable Liza Chelule, regarding the preservation of wetlands and catchment areas within the country and the government's plan in conjunction with Community Forest Association nationwide to plant 15 billion trees within the next decade. Question number 129 of 2024 by the member for Ruaraka, the Honorable T.J. Kajwang, regarding the Nairobi River pollution and the reasons for continued contamination despite interventions made over the years by various institutions. Honorable Speaker, the Minister will also be answering question number 130 of 2024 by the member for Tigania West, the Honorable Dr. John Mtunga, regarding key actors and benefits gained through climate financing to fight issues arising from climate change. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will be reconvening on Tuesday, 1st October 2024 to schedule business for the rest of that week. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Honorable members, before we call the next order, we acknowledge in the public gallery Nkubu Winners Academy from Imendi South Meru. On my behalf and on behalf of the House, we welcome the students and their teachers to the House of Parliament. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, ratification of the protocol to the constitutive acts of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament. Resumption of debate.
I understand this debate has some time to go. Who was on the floor? Okay, there is nobody was on the floor at the rise of the House. I have on the screen Rindikiri Mugambi. Are you for this? No. Dido Raso, are you for this?
Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I wish to contribute to this particular motion and why it is necessary for Kenya to sign this very important protocol that binds all African states and Kenya and others in particular. Honorable Speaker, the first OAU Charter was signed on 25th May 1963 in the city of Addis Ababa in the Federal Republic of Ethiopia. That was the formative charter that brought the African countries together, and it was also the stage and platform on and from where they started fighting for both emancipation and independence of the African countries, many of whom at that time were under colonialism. Honorable Speaker, on the 11th of July 2000, in Lome, Togo, is when the African Constitutive Act, which I believe is the current African Union Charter or the African Union Constitution, was signed by 53 African countries. This had been preceded by the fourth extraordinary session of the Africa Union that took place on 9th of September 1999 in the city of Sirte in Libya. Honorable Speaker, the reason why I'm going through those dates is to lay the ground for why this Constitutive Act is a very important document or charter for we the legislators or the leaders of this country to understand, and also for it to form part of the Kenyan legal instrument as an African country. Honorable Speaker, when you look at the African Union, the Organization of Africa Union Charter at the beginning, it was largely addressing the issues of cooperation between Africans, about fighting for decolonization of territories that still were under the colonial rule, and also emancipation of the Africans wherever they were. But if you look at what is in the Constitutive Act, it addresses the important issues of our time, the issues of economic and social cooperation, the issues of human rights and the rule of law, governance. A strong Africa that looks at partnership between its people, its neighbors, and also the rights of groups that are marginalized within the countries, women and youth. The role of civil society as among the objectives that are being pronounced in the African Union Constitutive Act. Honorable Speaker, in this particular instrument that I said is like the Africa Union Constitution. It talks more about peace and security. Africa has been bedeviled by the scourge of conflict for a very long time. Today, the African Union has a Peace and Security Commission that sits exactly like what happens in the Security Council to address issues of conflict on this continent. When you look at the old charter of OAU, it says non-interference in the internal affairs of African states. So that means that whatever happens within an African state, the OAU was mute. But what this constitutive act actually does or says is that the Africa Union Commission, we are bidding for the chairmanship of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, is more stronger today than what it was under OAU. Today, the commission has so many directorates under it: economic, social, educational, human rights division, that is able to address the issues of Africa. Madam Speaker, the other important things that you find in this constitutive act is the issue that has to do with democracy, good governance, and public participation. Madam Speaker, before now, the African Union was not able to clearly talk about election in a member state. Kenya holds its election, it goes whatever direction. Maybe there is post-election violence. Africa Union was quiet about it. But under the Constitutive Act, they are concerned that the issues that happen in Kenya, if they are not good, then they have a ripple effect over the neighboring countries. So that is why Africa Union takes cognizance of it. Madam Speaker, among other important things that this Constitutive Act addresses is the issue of inter-African infrastructure. Vision Agenda 2063, African Free Trade Agreement. With this, you can see that there's more partnership, there's more engagement within the Africa Union. Madam Speaker, through the Constitutive Act, the structure or organization of the African Union is more pronounced. Whereas it used to just have a very rudimentary structure of about 4 or 5. With this, you have the executive, the Pan-African Parliament, the Court of Justice, specialized technical committees, the permanent representative committees, Economic, Social, and Cultural Council. So all this is encompassing that they want to address the issue of the African continent and its people holistically. So for those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I support and ask my colleagues to support so that this particular instrument becomes an instrument within the laws of the land. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Buri, Honorable Mugambi. I can see your name is at the top. Or you don't want to speak to this?
On the second.
Okay. The Honorable Moses Kirima, Member for Central Element.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me this opportunity, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute on the said motion of the protocol. Madam Speaker, it's necessary for Kenya to be part of the world countries when it comes to the rules which govern the protocols of various countries. The matter before the National Assembly today was ventilated very well by the committee concerned. It passed through all the processes which were required, and it was seen after so searching and looking at all various articles in the same that in no way is it going to affect the country in form of taxpayers' money, in form of interfering with current internal rules of the country, and it's going at the end of the day to be adopted and become part of the municipal law which govern this country and the countries involved in signing of the same protocol. As for that, it's a necessity, taking into account that the world per se is becoming a village. It's like a village these days. It's a global village, whereby each country requires each other when it comes to economic growth, export of labor, import of goods, and all other things which pertains to the same protocol. We cannot live alone. The country requires to be part and a parcel of those countries which share the same ideas and ideals and also same sentiments. And as for that, the protocol is necessary for this country, for it to prosper better and a little bit further than where we are, and also to be appreciated in those countries which are part of this protocol. And as for that, I therefore support the motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Wundanyi, Honorable Mashoka. Yeah. Okay, those who want to contribute to this debate, kindly put the intervention button. The Honorable Member for Tharaka Nithi, Honorable Murugara.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me also to support this motion so that we are able to ratify the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament. It is important for the House to keep on noting every time we have such protocols that it's a requirement of our Constitution that once our country, Kenya, becomes a signatory to a protocol, international protocol, then that protocol ought to be brought to the House so that it is ratified to become binding on the country. After ratification, the protocol becomes part and parcel of our domestic laws. Therefore, we are bound. This is also pursuant to the Treaty Making and Ratification Act, which is Chapter 4D of the laws of the country. So upon approval or ratification of this protocol, Kenya is going to be part and parcel of the Act of the African Union, which is going to constitute the Pan-African Parliament. It's also important to observe that we are part and parcel of the Pan-African Parliament, and we have that chapter in this House which deals with the Pan-African affairs. It's also important to note that we have been a member of the African Union since inception of the country in 1963 when we became independent. And we have steadfastly stood with the African Union. In fact, in the early 80s, the late President Moi was the chairperson or the chairman of the African Union, as he used to be called. And we were very proud of that event during that epoch. Today, as we speak, we are presenting a formidable candidate for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission. And that is no other than the indefatigable Right Honorable former Prime Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga. And we wish him very well. He has the full backing of the country. I think we have gone out of our way to ensure that all the friendly countries that support Kenya actually support his candidature. And we are just waiting to see how the voting would go. But we are almost certain that he's going to be elected as the chairperson. So this is very important because we are going to strengthen the Pan-African Parliament through this act, which does constitute it. We will also be able to be part and parcel of Pan-Africanism in Africa. It goes without saying that our founding fathers of the African continent those days played a pivotal role in ensuring that Pan-Africanism spread. All the time we mention this, the late Kwame Nkrumah comes into play, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, we had Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya, we had Sedasego in Senegal, and everywhere else. These were Pan-Africanists who stood for the African unity. And today, we should actually be edging towards the union of the African continent so that we stop seeing ourselves just not as regional blocks, the East African Community, the South African Development Commission, the North African Bloc, and whichever. We see ourselves as one continent transiting to an African state, where possibly we are going to have the African currency amongst many other trading issues that we should bring together and speak in one voice. So this is a very important act to be executed by the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament. And as Kenyans, we should actually embrace this 100%. So as we wish the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga the very best for the chairmanship of the African Union, we confirm today we do support this ratification, which also goes towards showing that we are together with the African Union in issues relating to Pan-Africanism. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Suba North, Honorable Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And Madam Speaker, I want to say from the onset that I support this motion. And Madam Speaker, I served in the Pan-African Parliament in the 12th Parliament. And Madam Speaker, one of the reasons that I support this protocol is that it addresses some of the reasons for which I was not very keen to go back to Pan-African Parliament. But with this protocol, I'm really happy that they have actually addressed some of those issues. The Pan-African Parliament was a parliament with a lot of potential, it still has, but because it didn't have any teeth, it didn't have a legislative capacity, then it meant that we were basically meeting almost like a conference where we make resolutions and nothing comes out of it. But now that it is being given a legislative mandate, it will give it teeth. Madam Speaker, under Article 3, it provides for the objectives of the Pan-African Parliament, which includes giving a voice to the African peoples and the diaspora. It also seeks to promote the principles of human and people's rights and democracy in Africa. It encourages good governance, respect for the rule of law, transparency and accountability in member states. It promotes peace, security, and stability in Africa. It seeks to strengthen continental solidarity, cooperation, and development and build a sense of common destiny. Madam Speaker, the only issue that I'm noticing, even though it talks about ensuring that the languages that shall be spoken are the languages of the African Union, I would want to encourage especially our own government to consider not only making sign language a language as we had said earlier today, but also to ensure that every school is taught right from primary French. And Madam Speaker, this is so that it actually enhances integration and Pan-Africanism, because you find that sometimes we are much closer to countries that are far away from us because of the issue of the language barrier. Madam Speaker, I'm happy under Article 4, it provides that at least 2 members of the 5 members that will be sent by countries shall be women. Madam Speaker, I'm happy that the treaty now looks at the constitutive architecture and also mandate. I've spoken to the mandate, but even in terms of a constitutive architecture, the parliament as currently constituted includes members who are members of our own parliaments. Like I was serving as a member of parliament when I was also a member of the Kenyan parliament. But now it will be constituted more like the East African Parliament, where members of parliament will not be members of existing parliament. Madam Speaker, they will be elected direct, even though they will be serving in their, voting in their individual capacities. I want to thank the chair of JILAC, especially for making a connection of the important role of this, and the hopeful election of our party leader, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, to the AU chairmanship, because this is one of the organs of the AU. And we are hoping once he takes on the leadership, then he will revamp. And that is why it is good that this should go ahead of that. Madam Speaker, one of the things that I also like is that it has also provided for rotation of leadership and in the Bureau. This is one of the thorny issues, Madam Speaker, that has bedeviled this parliament. And I think there was a period for almost 1 year in the current Pan-African Parliament that they couldn't move on because of the issue of rotation, because it was more in terms of a gentleman's agreement that they had agreed that they could move, because based on, there would be rotation in South, like it was supposed to go to Southern Africa, and then there is a problem that now the Central African region wanted it and all that. It actually caused it not to function. Madam Speaker, if you have a situation where you have rotational leadership, then it would actually augur very well. Perhaps that is food for thought for us as a country, that if you want to think about dealing with the issues that bedevil us as a country every 5 years, maybe we could think about dividing the country into bigger regions and thinking about presidency in a rotational manner. Then we wouldn't be having the theatrics that we are seeing even right now because of the issues that some people feel like if we are not here now, we may have to wait another lifetime before we get into the presidency. It's something that we may need to think about seriously as a country. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I do support.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Marakwet West, Honorable Timothy Toroitich.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for granting me an opportunity to contribute on this very important report. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this report on the consideration for ratification of the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament. Honorable Speaker, in this country, we have an extremely progressive constitution. Under Article 26 of the Constitution, it provides in very clear terms that any treaty ratified by Parliament or by Kenya shall constitute part of the laws of this country. Honorable Speaker, Pan-African Parliament is a very important parliament in enhancing democracy within the African continent. Honorable Speaker, as a continent, we share a similar history, we share a similar culture. It is only that after the Berlin Conference of 1885, that this continent was divided and taken over by various colonial regimes, and that is where we lost our identity, we lost our culture as an African continent. Honorable Speaker, it is time now that as a country, we ratify this protocol so that we can go back and find our paths where we lost. Honorable Speaker, this parliament is very important because it's like a peer review in terms of our democracy in matters to do with human rights, where countries will have representatives at the highest level in the African continent where they can share certain values that are admired across the African continent. Honorable Speaker, I have seen the report. The only issue I have with this report, Honorable Speaker, is looking critically at the report. It says that under pursuant to Article 118(1)(b) of the Constitution on public participation and Section A3 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act 2012, the committee placed advertisements in 2 local dailies on 16 November 2023, calling for submissions of memoranda on the subject matter. However, Honorable Speaker, it goes further to say the committee did not receive any memorandum for or against the ratification of the protocol. Honorable Speaker, that is quite unfortunate because something must be wrong. It's either the committee did not give out proper notice for public participation, because it cannot be true that no one in the Republic of Kenya or even managed to give an opinion on this protocol. Honorable Speaker, it is something that can even be quashed by the courts. It's something that we must, the committee and this House needs to take it seriously, because there was no input from the public as per the report of this committee. Honorable Speaker,
Honorable Odhiambo, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Speaker. With due respect to the honorable member, I sit in the Committee of Defense, and indeed the Committee of Defense gave a public notice for public participation. But Madam Speaker, sometimes people don't give their views because many people don't know what Pan-African Parliament does. And that's why this Constitutive Act is good, because then it will make it easier for people to even know what Pan-African Parliament does. But the Defense Committee, it is wrong because, again, for the reason that it says that it may be taken to court, and if you have it on record that we are the ones questioning whether we actually did that, and the Committee of Defense did do that. I sit there and I know that.
Okay, you may proceed, Honorable.
Honorable Speaker, whereas I
Information.
respect the opinion by the senior counsel, it is on record that no memoranda was submitted to the committee. Give and take, it's okay, but that is an issue of concern that
Honorable Toroitich, I think you're casting aspersions on the House of Parliament, and you have clearly been informed by a member of this committee that there was the advertisements duly done, but there were no responses. You cannot force members of the public to give memorandum. The most important thing is to show that you gave them an opportunity to be able to give their memorandums. You are also free as a member of Parliament to even give your memorandum yourself. So I think you better withdraw that remark, because you're accusing the committee, yet you have received information from the committee.
Honorable Speaker,
Please withdraw that.
I substituted with the words that I have read the report, that despite notice being given on the record, the report on record is clear that no report was received from the public. Honorable Speaker, as I proceed, I have in the report the benefits that Kenya stands to enjoy by ratifying. Honorable Speaker, there are several benefits that will accrue out of ratifying this protocol. Honorable Speaker, one, as a country, we are demonstrating our commitment to democratic values and principles of inclusivity, including citizen participation. Honorable Speaker, as I've said, we have a lot as a country, we have a lot as a continent that we can learn from each other. Honorable Speaker, Kenya is a progressive democracy. If you compare Kenya with other African countries in terms of how we uphold our democracy, I think, Honorable Speaker, it is a country that is admired, and these are values that we can export to other African countries when we ratify this protocol to establish legally the Pan-African Parliament. Honorable Speaker, also in matters, broader objectives, in matters to do with African integration and unity. Honorable Speaker, we have various, for example, the East African Community. where we have issues to do with integration. Honorable Speaker, I think this parliament, when we constitute it fully and we ratify this protocol, as a country, we can be able to advance our economic values and matters to do with African integration in this parliament. Honorable Speaker, also, the protocol would give Kenyan parliamentarians a voice of influence in shaping continental policies and initiatives. Honorable Speaker, as I've said, we have a progressive constitution which has been subject to interpretation by the courts. We have set precedents in this country through our judiciary. Honorable Speaker, these are values that other countries can learn from us. Honorable Speaker, I support this particular ratification in totality, only that in future, we need more participation in terms of involving Parliament. Honorable Speaker, there needs to be an amendment to the this protocol we call the Treaty Making and Ratification Act number 45 of 2012. If you read section 9 of that particular act, it says Parliament may approve a particular protocol with reservations or without reservations. Honorable Speaker, I want to challenge the committee to be able to table this protocol before the House before it is brought for ratification, so that we can be able, as members of Parliament, we can engage and peruse this protocol before it is brought before this House, pursuant to section 9 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act of 2012. So that, Honorable Speaker, I have no problem if the senior counsel wants to inform me.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, I just wish to understand you, but I just wish to inform you that the reason I actually moved the Treaty Making and Ratification Act, and without the Treaty Making and Ratification Act, you would not be debating. So the bill itself actually enables Parliament to debate the treaties. So, and the way treaties are made or negotiated, we can only make reservations. We can't amend. I think I'm saying that because I've had other members saying that before. If you understand from international law, we cannot amend treaties, not in a parliament. You can only make reservations. You can't amend. Thank you.
The Honorable Chairperson for the committee, Honorable Koech.
Honorable Millie Odhiambo has done very well, but I also wanted to say, and that is why we are here, this is not been passed yet. It has given you an opportunity to deliberate on it, and Parliament still has an opportunity to even reject it at this point if they deem unfit to ratify this proposal. So it's still the property of Parliament. Public participation, also just to inform my colleague, is to allow you as members of Parliament to contribute. And another thing that I raised yesterday, if you remember, Honorable Speaker, is that many members of Parliament, particularly this Parliament, I'm sorry to say that, do not even understand how Pan-African Parliament do operate. And even to those who actually are in Pan-African Parliament, that is why they're not here, they're not even contributing, because many people have never understood how Pan-African Parliament operates.
Thank you, honorable members. I think at this juncture, I would like to recognize the presence of the following schools. Seated in the speaker's gallery is Molo Highway Secondary School from Molo constituency, Nakuru County. And then seated in the public gallery is Pamela Scott Leldet Secondary School, Rongai constituency, Nakuru County. We also have Kilo Primary School, Kajiado East constituency, Kajiado County. And I will give the honorable member for Molo, Honorable Kimani Kuria, to welcome all the three schools on behalf of the National Assembly.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I would really like to extend an invitation to the National Assembly, the great students of Molo Highway Secondary School, Rongai, and the Kajiado West constituency schools to the National Assembly to observe the proceedings of this school. Honorable Speaker, if you'd allow me, Molo Highway Secondary School is one of the fastest growing schools in the constituency. Just 5 years after doing their first KCSE, we had very excellent results for the last KCSE, having one student get a B+, 5 get a C+, 3 get a B, and 1 get a B-, sending to university and 1 to the seminary, 10 students passing, making it to university. And this is a day school, Honorable Speaker. I went to the school to launch for the Thanksgiving last Friday, and I promised them that you'll come and observe the process of Parliament. Because, Honorable Speaker, I am a product of a day secondary school, a mixed day secondary school. And I see brilliant students like this. I am sure that you have the next biggest leaders in this country, the best engineers, the best doctors, and the best lawyers. And also, Honorable Speaker, this shows the importance of National Government Constitutional Development Fund. When I became a member of Parliament, this school had only one Mabati classroom. And you go to that school now, they have story buildings, they have labs, and that is what has helped them to have as infrastructure almost as good as those that in the schools that NGCDFS, the schools like the one Honorable Millie Odhiambo went to, and therefore getting to post such excellent results. So congratulations, Molo Highway. We look forward to even better results this year, and welcome to Parliament. And if I may, Honorable Speaker, continue with my contribution on the ratification. Go ahead. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the ratification of the Constitutive Acts of the African Union relating to the African Parliament, the PAP, Honorable Speaker. This ratification refers to the formal process in which member states of Pan-African Parliament approve and adopt the legal framework established in the establishment of the Pan-African Parliament. Honorable Speaker, the Pan-African Parliament is one of the organs of the African Union that is aimed at promoting peace, unity, democracy, good governance, human rights, and economic development. The protocol, Honorable Speaker, is properly constituted within the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. The protocol will advance, Honorable Speaker, the participation of African people in matters of governance. It will uphold democratic principles, protect human rights, and promote good governance across the African continent by joining the voice and listening to the voice of the African people and those of the African people in the diaspora. Honorable Speaker, Kenya stands to enjoy a plethora of benefits through the ratification of this protocol, which will include, among the following, Honorable Speaker, the demonstration of Kenya's commitment to democracy and the principle of achieving inclusivity and active citizen participation. Honorable Speaker, this ratification will make Kenya be able to contribute to the broader objectives of African integration, legislation, and forging of unity, Honorable Speaker. The protocol, Honorable Speaker, will also give Kenyan Parliament a voice and an influence in shaping the continental policies and initiatives. And number 4, Honorable Speaker, this active participation on the Pan-African Parliament would raise the Kenyan voice profile in the AU and also in the continental stage, Honorable Speaker. On this, it's a great privilege that you have one gentleman in the name of Honorable Raila Odinga, whom Kenya has funded to be the chairperson of African Union. And you're hoping that this will be a successful bid for Kenya, that Kenya will be a proud holder of the chairmanship of this particular individual, Honorable Speaker. And this would in a way show gratitude to the many years of fighting for multi-party democracy, for fighting for what we call ugatuzi. Honorable Speaker, when we were young people, we used to hear Raila Amolo Odinga talk about ugatuzi and Majimbo. And we actually thought that ugatuzi was a very bad thing. We thought devolution was a very bad thing, that it will divide this country. But many years later, Honorable Speaker, after the enactment of the 2010 Constitution and the establishment of the 47 counties, we have seen development going towards the people. We have seen the people being involved in the way their government is being run. Honorable Speaker, I've had a privilege of traveling across this country. And it is sad when you go to some constituencies that have never seen any inch of a tarmac road. You go to a constituency that has less than 10% of power connectivity in that particular constituency, Mr. Speaker. And the hope is that this devolution that we fought for would cure these challenges, Honorable Speaker. And I'm hoping that our governors across the 47 counties, and it's great to see many governors who are working extremely hard and bringing a change in the counties of Honorable Speaker, would use this devolution to bring not just development to the people, but also bring the participation of the voice of the people in their governance, Honorable Speaker, to the lowest units of devolution, Honorable Speaker. You know, there is one a great Pan-Africanist who said that the habit of democracy must be learned by practice. The people must learn by experience how to govern themselves. That was one voice, a great Pan-African and socialist, and a sociologist, Honorable Speaker. So I'm really hoping that this practice of the power of the people to govern themselves, both at the national forum and in the county forum, will bring out the best experience and give us the best leadership, and will also enable the electorate and the voters at the 5-year election cycle to evaluate their leaders from their words, from their development, and give us the best so that we can run this country and we can run this continent, and so that we can continue to become one continent called Africa, one people called Africa, and hopefully in future even have one nation called Africa. Some of the challenges, Honorable Speaker, that we face, for example, fluctuations in our currencies, is because we all have our small currencies. If you are in Busia, for you to cross over to Uganda, you can hardly use Kenya shillings to purchase something in Uganda. If you need to cross just next to the other border of Tanzania, you have to change your currency again to Tanzania shillings. Now, worst of all, especially when you're dealing with huge transactions, you have to change it to US dollars first, then convert it again to the local currency, Honorable Speaker. Our common markets, you know, with such a huge population of Africa, we have such a huge market for products, but even despite us passing different protocols to allow free trade movement across Africa, we still face bureaucracies and many barriers to trade, Honorable Speaker. It's until recently, even traveling to one of our African countries, South Africa, you needed to have a visa. But you're hoping that now this collaboration in both free movement of goods and free movement of people across the continent, hopefully the establishment of an African bank and the establishment of an African continent will make us to live even closer together as one people, the African people. Without a begs to support this certification, Honorable Speaker, and congratulate the Committee on Defense for doing such a brilliant job in this report, Honorable Speaker. And perhaps lastly, to comment on what my honorable friend from Marakwet said on public participation. Every piece of legislation that comes to this House has to go through public participation. But majority of times, despite publishing in local diaries, Honorable Speaker, in the website, even parties that are directly involved or will be directly affecting these decisions do not even send a memorandum to Parliament. And maybe perhaps it's the time we revisited the public participation bill, I think that was introduced at the Senate, and give a criteria, because sometimes the language in which this legal framework in this legal language is put is not palatable for Northern Kenya. And maybe it's perhaps a high time we came up with a matrix of how to engage the public in these matters of public participation, so that this big concept like the ratification of the constitutive act of the Pan-African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament can be in a language that would be more palatable to an ordinary Kenyan and make him be able to participate on its debate and legislation. Without a beg support, Honorable Speaker.
Well said. I think you came prepared for the debate. The Honorable Member for Central Imenti. It's in the House. He spoke already. So the Honorable Member for Tharaka also spoke. The Honorable Member for Wajir North, the Honorable Sane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. the processes of, or the process of ratification of treaties, protocols, or any bilateral agreement is so clear in our constitution. And I think what we are debating is really what we are supposed to do. Kenya as a country has participated in the making of this protocol, and there is all the purpose, intent, and the good is so expected out of it. More so when it is a Pan-African protocol, it goes without saying it is ours, and we are in the middle of it. Mr. Speaker, I don't know, there's some noise disturbing. Somebody must have dropped his phone, and I can't contribute. Mr. Speaker, treaties, protocols, and bilateral agreements ordinarily set courtesy rules for parties to engage. They put mechanisms for international pledge, agreement, and ways of working together in a certain orderly manner. Treaties give common commitments where people agree together so that there are no conflicts. It is a matter of commonalities, not disagreements. It gives opportunity to network among agreeing member states. Treaties showcase unity, Mr. Speaker. Unity of purpose, unity to troubleshoot just in case there are issues arising, and the unity to amalgamate in a very cohesive manner on purpose of social issues, economic issues, and political issues, and the Pan-African Parliament being brought on board will surely serve those three pillars which are key to this continent. Mr. Speaker, the protocol is a diplomatic tool. It's a diplomatic tool for engaging between African states. It is an interactive tool for reaction and relation. It aligns our values as Africans. We come from a common heritage and destiny. We have so much commonalities that hold us together as African states. It is like an economic block, a giant economic block, though sleeping. So it aligns our values, goals, and even our identity as an African continent. What was once a source of slave trade or human capital in the name of slavery can today come together in the form of a protocol or an international instrument to foster development, to agree on their own interest and come up with their homegrown initiative. That is what this protocol really looks up to. Mr. Speaker, it underscores that really we have a common history that is undeniable, that we Africans are brothers and sisters. We come from the same destiny, the same pedigree. That common destiny forces us to come together and discuss our own issues and come with local solutions to our problems, not always looking forward to foreigners. The answers to Africa's problems is in its own human capital and minds and intellectuals, Mr. Speaker. In a nutshell, this protocol takes to a higher level the political horizon of discussing African matters. There are dreams of having a United States of Africa. Many have dreamed of that. Pan-Africanism, blocks, whichever blocks, the Southern Bloc, the East African Community, we call by any name, all this is an African issue. This Pan-African Parliament will be a platform, an avenue to at least take it to a higher horizon, learn together, research, and put it on a continental platform, Mr. Speaker. Not in our local entities, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda. These small entities no longer serve. The world is competing on a broader scale, economically, politically, militarily. So it is time for us to come with instruments that bring us together to negotiate, cooperate, and bring whatever that the resources so required to bring this gigantic continent to the fore and lead the world. Mr. Speaker, I believe without much ado, this has nothing much to debate other than accepting. It is a belated one. It is quite in order, and I entirely support bringing the Pan-African platform and its consequent ratification. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support. An order.
Honorable Mayaka, what is,
Honorable Speaker, I think I'm just judging the mood of the House, and I'd like to, understanding Order 95, to call the mover to reply.
is the mood of the House that we call them what reply? The Honorable Sonko Nelson Koech. Chance to reply.
Stop using characters that do not describe my name, but thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, my good friend Speaker, and thank you very much for the members for their comments about this Pan-African Parliament Protocol. It's a very, very important tool that is extremely necessary to allow the operationalization of the Pan-African Parliament. There have been very promising sentiments from members here, particularly from, I had a member yesterday did say that it does not remember the last time the African Union had one voice and sat together somewhere with a proper structure to execute issues that affect, prosecute rather, issues that affect Africa as African states in such structured manner like the Pan-African Parliament will be. Like it was indicated yesterday, Honorable Speaker, 15 countries have already ratified also follows suit. And it was only this process that was awaiting so that we can be part of this Pan-African, exciting Pan-African Parliament with new structures. It's also exciting for members of Parliament, particularly those who will want to participate in Pan-African Parliament, knowing that it is going to be an elective position. So if anyone is going to want to be in the Pan-African Parliament, they will have to resign if you're a member of Parliament, unlike the situation at the moment, and take the shape of what happens ordinarily with the East African Legislative Assembly. Honorable Speaker, I do not want to really bore members with many stories. I just want to say the comments have been very good and promising, and laud members of my committee for this noble duty and a lot of work that they put in, particularly those of Legal Mind, Chief Minority Whip, Honorable Emilio Odhiambo has been very useful. I've been worked before in writing bills that deals with protocols, and I want to appreciate the entire committee for that. Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply, but I would request that you defer the vote to a later date. Thank you very much.
Well done, and your request that the decision on this motion be made the next time the motion is laid on the order paper is acceded to, and we'll vote on it when it next appears on the order paper. Next order.
Order number 9, the Technopolis Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2024, resumption of debate.
Honorable members, debate on this bill commenced 2 days ago, and it's open for debate. The last person on the floor was the Honorable Beatrice Kimei. By pressing intervention, I would be able to know which members would wish to contribute to this. Member for Funyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. for this opportunity. And let me say, as I stand to comment or give my opinion on this bill, I must give a lot of credit to my friend KJ, who has really let me understand technology. And I remember when we were with him in South Korea, he would take for us content creation, whatever that means. And indeed, I like his passion for the project. Honorable Speaker, many of us will remember that Kenya has grappled with technology. Kenya has introduced and adopted technology over time. Vision 2030, Honorable Speaker, is hinged on the adoption of technology to drive this economy as we seek to industrialize and become a major manufacturing country. We have to do so, we need technology. And Honorable Speaker, let me also admit, the first time I touched a computer was when I was at the University of Nairobi. I must have been around 1990 something, around 1995 or 90 something. That's when I first saw a computer. And to actually work with a computer was much, much later when things started. Unlike this younger generation who are literally born, and when they open up their mind, they have an electronic gadget in their hands. Honorable Speaker, perusing through this bill, it more or less leads to particular aspects of what we want to do. One, it more or less looks like a special economic zone or an EPZ. Secondly, it actually assumes some of the powers of the various departments of physical planning and land use planning organs in county governments at the national level. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it would seem that this particular bill wants to copy and make sure areas related as technopolis are areas dedicated for the advancement of technology, for creation of employment in technology, and developing technology that will drive this economy and government services. Honorable Speaker, it also seeks then to repeal the order that established Konza Technopolis region, whatever it is called, so that now Konza will become a part and parcel of this process. It will require probably, in my understanding, but it has been saved here when they say the authority, formal authority, means the Kenya Konza Technopolis Development Authority. It would have then, therefore, will have to be replanned afresh or replanned, confirmed, based on this provision of this particular area. Honorable Speaker, of course, the older generation, we are worried about the inversion, so to speak, of technology in our life. We are worried the potential misuse of technology. We are worried the harmful or the positive, whether the harmful, the other side of technology. Honorable Speaker, I read an article yesterday on BBC News, where they were saying technology has got advantage, but technology is starting to damage in one or another the younger generation, especially the adolescents and the youths. I therefore wish to beg and beseech those people who understand, can we use this vehicle to try and sieve the amount of content that the young generation, the young people, the young boys and girls are allowed to access? Can we, and I want to urge the committee, can we find ways of ensuring technology complements formal education and not replace formal education? Honorable Speaker, me and you, probably you could be young, but Sir George, the first thing we used to be taught was spelling. Nowadays, Honorable Speaker, nobody teaches spelling. They can simply Google, you type even wrongly, you go to spelling search, and everything goes. Honorable Speaker, I can assure you, even some of our clerks here and even some of our young members of parliament here, if you gave them a blank paper and told them to write an essay on one paper without using spelling check, without using the computer, without using the phone, Honorable Speaker, they will get 0 in spelling. I can assure you. So technology is good, and I really want the idea. But for heaven's sake, there are some basics in life should never be taken away. And that's why, Honorable Speaker, many good things can come through, but we need to be very careful. Honorable Speaker, looking at this particular bill, it has some provisions that will require to be addressed afresh. For example, clause 6A says the authority has powers and functions to formulate administrative bylaws and guidelines for the sustainable development and management of our technopolis. We need to be very careful that we are not invading or we are not in breach of the provisions of the Social Instruments Act, as well as the Constitution that clearly states the lawmaking body is Parliament and nobody else. Honorable Speaker, it's a typical bill that has got administrative structures. I take again special objection and a reservation on clause 7(1)(e) that says the membership of the board of the authority shall be 5 persons, not being public officers, appointed by a cabinet secretary. I suppose in the mind of the committee, there is an expectation that the appointment will be through a competitive process so that the minister or the cabinet secretary does not sit down and generally decide to appoint people that have no capacity or people close to them and therefore compromise on the whole issue. Honorable Speaker, under clause 17, it confers upon the authority a lot of mandate, an extremely wide mandate. I'm not so sure, Honorable Speaker, whether this country has got the resources to provide the funds required for the authority, for example, to ensure that each technopolis is equipped with state-of-the-art integrated infrastructure and facilities. Honorable Speaker, I'm not so sure. Even though one of the authority of the federal authority is to source for funds, raise funds to achieve their objective. Honorable Speaker, there are quite a number of progressive ideas. We will watch keenly, but Honorable Speaker, again, I want to bring to the attention, one of the functions is the authority will be the custodian or keep records or backup for state data, national data, and county data, and the same. We do hope it will have enough safeguards to ensure that there's no breach of the data to the detriment of the country and to the detriment of the individual persons, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, the issue of land use planning, Honorable Speaker, we will need to interrogate the issue of the buffer zone. We need to interrogate the functions of the county government as provided for in the Constitution. We must also look at the provisions of the Land Use, Physical and Land Use Planning Act to ensure that there is no overarching, given the authority is not a planning authority, unless it will have to apply to be listed or licensed as a planning authority to prepare land use plans without the approval of the relevant county government. Honorable Speaker, we do hope the authority will decentralize this particular technopolis, if possible, to all strategic counties. Busia is one of the strategic counties. I hope you will not forget Busia being a strategic county. With those very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the bill.
Thank you. Member for Buri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this bill is coming the right time. Mr. Speaker, the Kenya Kwanza government and now the broad-based government agree on certain things that need to be done to fast track the economic growth of this country. Mr. Speaker, the issue of technological advancement is key to every sector that we are in this country. The Technopolis centers, Mr. Speaker, are supposed to generate so many positive impacts to our economy. Mr. Speaker, this is the same authority that I'm sure will try and enhance the technology among various institutions in many parts of our country. Mr. Speaker, if we really want to increase innovation in our country, we must adapt certain things or certain ways of doing things. Mr. Speaker, we need innovation in sectors like information technology, biotechnology, telecommunications, and advanced manufacturing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need to attract professionals, researchers, and entrepreneurs. Mr. Speaker, the secret of success in countries like US, Japan, and the UK is centered on the premise of understanding the advantages of having areas designated purely to enhance technology. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is known in Africa as a country of high level of technology, but it has never focused strategically to have it properly managed and executed. Mr. Speaker, this bill brings that focus, what is now required. Mr. Speaker, let's not forget that the government has said we must have an ICT hub in every constituency. Mr. Speaker, I believe that this bill will recognize and see how the Technical Police Center, the main one, and the one that is going to invest in, will join in the ICT hubs to enhance the advantage of technology among our youth. Mr. Speaker, we are looking at an opportunity here for creating jobs. We are looking for opportunities to enhance economic growth. We are looking for opportunities for innovation and research. We are looking for areas of collaboration, of opportunities. We are looking for opportunities on how to access funding. We are looking for opportunities on how to enhance infrastructural development. Mr. Speaker, we are looking for opportunities to be competitive in the international arena. Mr. Speaker, we are looking for opportunities to enhance entrepreneurial ecosystems and knowledge transfer and improve the quality of life. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill addresses those kind of objectives under clause 3. Mr. Speaker, under clause part 2, it addresses the authority that will be charged with the responsibility. And I'm satisfied going through the responsibilities and functions of this authority, Mr. Speaker, is going to enhance the achievement of this objective. Mr. Speaker, we will need a lot of investment on this for it to be realized. But Mr. Speaker, everything comes at a cost. For us to be able to jump fast enough in the world of technology, Mr. Speaker, it is high time we support a bill like this. Mr. Speaker, I was in Kigali, Rwanda, last month. Mr. Speaker, we are slowly being caught up by countries like Rwanda who have made technology, service, and technology as their concern, as part of the economic agenda. And you can see the kind of investment they are attracting. You can see the kind of enthusiasm that is
among the youth in that country. Mr. Speaker, you can see the kind of innovations that are coming up in the country of Rwanda. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill comes handy to address some of those issues that are mentioned, and I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, going forward, we shall have an authority, we shall have these centers spread all over. I will ask the national government to put more resources in these centers. Mr. Speaker, for the sake of our youth, for the sake of the economy of this country, we need to grow manufacturing, we need to grow manufacturing industries, we need to grow agriculture, we need to offer services, we need to be competitive in the world, Elena. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I support.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to support this bill and to thank Honorable KJ, who is very passionate about technology. I normally accompany him to the IPU, and is usually our expert on technology, very proudly showcasing Kenyan excellence. I also wish to thank the committee. And Mr. Speaker, I will be making very minor or proposing very minor amendments to the bill that basically relate to issues of governance, like the areas where we in the board, it is proposed that there shall be 5 individuals. Mr. Speaker, I shall be proposing that, of course, that we have a gender balance and an age balance. Unfortunately, for some of us here, I think we need to ensure that the younger people are the majority, more particularly perhaps the Gen Zs should be the majority. And Mr. Speaker, first, because they are very technologically savvy more than us, but also it would also help in job promotion, because we saw part of the challenges that we are facing as a country is the youth bulge that is very evident, especially because of the issue of lack of jobs and few other governance issues, really. Mr. Speaker, I would want to say that technology is the present and it's also the future. And any country that does not invest in technology will be overtaken in the world or in the global economy. Mr. Speaker, I remember when I was just doing my university the other day, when I was doing my dissertation, and I hand wrote my dissertation. I'm very good at using technology, but I hand wrote my dissertation. And somebody stole my luggage in an Akamba bus on my way from Homa Bay to Nairobi, and it was an entire handwritten document. You can imagine how stressed I was. And I had 2 weeks to submit. There's no backup. And so I had to sit and research afresh. And what I remember is not just that, but I remember that when I was sitting, one of my good friends, Njeri Mwangi, who works at the Office of the Attorney General, introduced me to her sister, who she told us, you know, my sister knows how to use a computer. You can imagine, in my time, she told me my sister knows how to use a computer. So we went to her office, I think it was in Amref or something, over the weekend, because she was helping me to type so that we don't lose the document again. And when we were sitting there, Mr. Speaker, I was perplexed. Something was coming through a machine. And I went back to my cousin, who was so knowledgeable. He was always ahead of us, called Felix Ochieng, who went to Lenana School. Even though Alliance likes pretending that they know, but Lenana School sometimes is way ahead of them on a few things. Mr. Speaker, I went to my cousin Felix and asked him, I was in this office and there was something coming out of a machine. And he told me it's called a fax machine. Again, in my age and time. Now fax machines are obsolete, almost obsolete, I think. I don't see who uses them anymore. But in this lifetime, so much has changed that I can hardly keep up. And that is why, as a country, if we can't move with the same speed that everybody else is moving, then we are actually going raised, that you consider especially the issues that have been raised by Honorable Undo, so that we build on it. Mr. Speaker, some of the issues that this is going to do is to create jobs. I am launching my book called Rig or Be Rigged on the 1st of October, on Tuesday next week. And one of the things that I was doing as I'm organizing around this is just, I'm amazed at the level of technology around just launching my book. And I'm just sitting back and marveling at all these young people. And interestingly now, I can no longer use people who are, I hardly use people in their 40s or 30s. I have to use people who are early 20s and 18s. Yeah, the Gen Zs. Because really, otherwise we are very boring and old and irrelevant. But what I loved also is that the way they are using technology to make money. You would be shocked, Mr. Speaker, the simple things that I see, and I think they don't take much, which is called content creation and all that. How much the young people are charging. Maybe I'm charged more because I'm an MP, I don't know. But at least I am happy that jobs are being created. And if we can, one of the things that are raised around the Gen Z revolution was that we need to formalize this sector. And what is being done with this bill is also trying to do that. And I thank the committee. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I love is that it would also be setting up a technopolis. And I watch Crime and Investigation Network a lot. And one of the things that I see we are so behind on is when you have crimes on technology and issues of sexual and gender-based violence are increasingly becoming too many. And some perpetrated by the children against themselves, they are still crimes. Like I think I reported here on the floor of the House about a case where not university, high school students in uniform are having sex with each other and it's being filmed online. We are seeing children having sex in swimming pools and it is being shared online. Mr. Speaker, I want to link it with the issue of mental health. And I'd want to encourage the committee that part of the things that you need to do here is link technology as part of the negative spin-offs that Honorable Undo was talking about. How do we link this? When you are young, you are very foolish. We were also young in our ages, even though we didn't do the things that now the younger ones are doing. But we made mistakes that are correctable because there was no technology to see. Some people stole here in their high school. There was no technology to cover. People did many funny things. Nobody covered. But now in technology, it is covered and it is being circulated. Recently, there's a lady who was buried in one of the areas in Luolan called Achieng, and her case went viral. Why? Because everybody was attacking Achieng at the funeral, and her children were seated there with their schoolmates, and they were calling that woman names. And it is good they were talking to a dead body who couldn't hear them. But there were young people seated here listening to them. How do you address those kind of issues? So we must also not only look at the benefits, but the negative spin-offs of technology, and I'd hope that we can look at that as well. And then one of the things that I'd encourage this committee to look at, when I was younger, we said there were people who are illiterate, who didn't learn to read and write. Can you also consider Gumbaru in technology? And I'm semi-Gumbaru in technology because I am literate, but I'm not that literate. And Mr. Speaker, if we don't move with the speed that is required of us, Mr. Speaker, I'm telling you, we will be left totally behind by these young people. And so we need to learn, maybe not at their speed, but we must catch up. Otherwise, we will not be able to understand their language, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, another issue where I would want us to look at this spin-off as well. Mr. Speaker, one day I spoke here about being a bad girl, and that has gone completely viral. All over the world, by the way, incidentally, America, whatever. I was recently in Ghana, and somebody walks up to me right at the airport and says, "Bad girl, I'm walking in the streets, bad girl." Technology. But that is not what worries me. I have discovered that, well, in terms of gender, majority of them are women. But young boys, 5 years old, young girls, 5 years old, walk up to me and tell me, I know you from parliament. I follow what you do. I follow what you say. The speaker was asking me the other day, telling me, and the president told me, be a good girl. I will not listen to them, but I listen to the young ones, Mr. Speaker, because of technology. What I say in this house is affecting 5-year-olds and 10-year-olds. So not only is it going to affect us in terms of what we say, but can we find a way of controlling so that we don't mess up the minds of young people? I support.
Well
I'm
said.
still a bad girl.
I think it's a good time to hear from the member for Githunguri.
Mr. Speaker, I am glad that I've gotten this opportunity to contribute to this wonderful bill, and I want from the onset congratulate the chair of the committee that handles matters ICT in the National Assembly, the Honorable KJ, who I previously served with in the previous parliament in the same committee, a very informed member, and I'm sure the members of that committee appreciate that they have a talent in that committee. I participated in the making of this bill in the previous parliament in a way because I participated in the process of coming up with the idea behind Konza City Technopolis. Mr. Speaker, who knew or ever imagined that one time in the life of Kenyans would require oxygen? It only happened that during COVID, we all realized that we needed oxygen. Who knew that in the life of Kenyans, we would scamper for every available cylinder for oxygen? How many lives did we lose because we could not supply sufficient oxygen in hospitals, clinics, and dispensaries during COVID? I think that's an insight that we need to adopt from and start from. That whenever we are doing any planning in this country, we must give room to new ideas, innovations, and make sure that our structural design accommodates for such new ideas and innovations. Today, any person designing a hospital without accommodating or creating space for oxygen distillation, oxygen pumping, and gas and tanks for storage would actually be doing this country a lot of injustice. Anybody designing a hospital must consider how to put those structural requirements in place. Mr. Speaker, I am of the opinion that anybody designing a house, any form of a structure in this country, must be doing this country an injustice if we do not come up with a special room called technology room. Even in this parliament, on top of these galleries, we have technology rooms. And that is why we are able to adopt and move with the new technology year in, year out. Mr. Speaker, last parliament, we didn't have all these television screens we have here. We only had one. Now we have how many? About 7 or 8 in the room. And these are new jobs created, by the way, because these are all cameramen given new jobs to focus on parliamentary proceedings. What am I saying? I'm saying the idea of this Technopolis moving from Konza centralized place to a decentralization program is a welcome idea. We must have a Technopolis in every sub-county, if not every ward, so that in future, if we require to adopt, for example, we need to adopt the way we are covering our events using drones. If we need to accommodate such kind of technology that is coming and it's coming on in year out, we accommodate new technology. So I am just concerned that we are running now to take every available land that is left in our neighborhood. We are running to build markets and affordable housing. Every other available space in our country, we are adopting new markets and affordable houses. And I'm wondering, the land that was put specially for innovation in agriculture, for example, the land that was used for agricultural development cooperation, the ADC pieces of land that are available in Nyandarua, available in Nyeri, available in Kiambu, we are running there to build affordable houses. forgetting that we may need those pieces of land for the new technology innovation that is coming. I was telling my brother KJ that right now we are floating in an era called the new information age era, where models of technology are being adopted, new telephony is happening. We are moving from the old age to new age. When we all run to our land and occupy on affordable houses and markets, what will happen tomorrow if we have another COVID of a new nature that require us to have, for example, rescue centers, more rescue centers? What will happen? Where will we go? What will you use? So I'm not fighting. I'm not here to say that affordable houses are not good, but of course we cannot just grab every other land, take every other available space and occupy it with markets, forgetting that we are also moving technologically. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say all the pieces of land that were left for agricultural training center, the ATCs, every district, the so-called district in the old constitution had an ATC, an agricultural training center. We should not run to transform that land from ATC to affordable housing. We should be thinking, what sort of a technology should we adopt so that we can help farmers marry with the new technology instead of abandoning the agricultural training centers and making them markets and affordable houses. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill. And in fact, I advocate that every sub-county should have some space left for Technopolis. In that Technopolis, we should be able to use technology to help our farmers. Mr. Speaker, I'm just from my constituency in a place called Liuki, and I was meeting about 1,000 farmers, coffee farmers. And to my shock, that coffee factory is officially dead. Those are factories that used to help us to process our coffee, pulp our coffee, market our coffee. 1,000 farmers were crying to me as their member of parliament to assist them to revive that coffee factory. I asked in the group, who is here who can help us to revive this coffee factory? They nominated 3 young Gen Zs who have degrees in economics, degree in commerce, and a degree in agroeconomics. And they are in the village idle. We are crying that we have no money in our pockets. We are crying that our coffee have nowhere to be pulped or factory to operate, but our children with degrees are in the villages. Don't you think we need to think very critically? Something is not right with us. How do we educate people with degrees and then we collapse the factories where we are supposed to be employing them? So I have engaged myself in the meeting with the farmers, and we have agreed that we are going to even fundraise. If we cannot get money from government, we are going to fundraise to make sure that we revive that coffee factory. But Mr. Speaker, that is not where I am. I am saying I wish this Technopolis center, one of them, would be brought to Liuki village. And that Liuki village, there are so many learned young people, Gen Zs, who are ready and ably equipped by the government of Kenya, and they have papers to work in such kind of centers. So I appreciate the idea. I appreciate the ideology. I welcome the thoughts that we can actually decentralize Technopolis from Konza to even my village in Githunguri. And how I can't wait to see us thinking in a manner of how we can be able to use technology even to cure the existing economic problems we have. Mr. Speaker, about 2 months ago, I traveled to native Italy. Native, that means the very interior places of Italy. And I realized that the generations of the early 60s, 40s, 60s, built their houses, and every house had a bunker. Every house has a bunker, you know, the underground bunker. Because they built and designed their houses ready for war. Those bunkers helped them so much and keeps helping them even now during winter. Those are the bunkers that they use to store their wheat during winter, and they secure their food. Unfortunately, majority of the young population in Italy have moved from the villages to the towns. So the native Italy villages are abandoned. But there are still bunkers being used to store food, even for export market. People who designed those houses were ready for a sanctuary. They were planning for a sanctuary existence. Technopolis ideas of Kenya, what we are reading from this bill, it is our planning for a century to come. And we must accommodate Technopolis in every village if we can. I support. Thank you very much.
Well said. No, for Kaiti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me opportunity to contribute to this important bill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I give my contribution, I also want to thank the committee through the chair, KJ. We used to be in the same committee last parliament of ICT and with Wamushomba, and I also contributed. I can say I'm proud of this bill because I know I'm a part of a contributor. We are the pioneers of this bill, Mr. Speaker. And I want to support the committee for the good job they are doing. And I think, Mr. Speaker, technology is the way to go. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that in the last parliament, we also amended a cybercrime bill, which, Mr. Speaker, helped Kenyans a lot, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, is through technology, Mr. Speaker, whereby our youth are benefiting nowadays. Because, Mr. Speaker, there are no jobs in the country. And I can say that even through the technology, our young people, after the college, after the university, they make their own businesses. They make their own business through even TikTok. They make some contents and sell it in the platforms to create, to improve their living standards, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying through technology, when I was sitting here, I was just remembering those years when you used to use the telecom, the big phones, whereby you used to call someone, you need to go to the nearest market, 10 kilometers away to make a call to someone in Nairobi or into the city. But currently, through technology, Mr. Speaker, we have mobile phones whereby when you are working, you can make calls and even make business through the phone, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the reason why this bill is very important, Mr. Speaker, when we go to technology, Mr. Speaker, just see that the technology in agriculture, Mr. Speaker. Through the new technology machines, we are improving in our agriculture in our country. And Mr. Speaker, is through this whereby parents, even in the villages, they can use the new technology, Mr. Speaker, and afford to improve their living standards, and they are even in a position to pay school fees for their children through the technology, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I remember I went to several countries, Mr. Speaker, in the last parliament, Mr. Speaker, when we are working on the issue of Konza City, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this city, and that's why I'm encouraging this government to take this city serious, Mr. Speaker, because Techno City is the way to go. Mr. Speaker, in future, that Techno City, when it becomes the project will be completed, Mr. Speaker, I think many Kenyans will benefit from it. Jobs will be created. And Mr. Speaker, even our young people will benefit through e-learning and other technologies, Mr. Speaker, in that city. So that's why we are saying, Mr. Speaker, we are proud of Techno City, Konza City, and we are requesting the government to put more resources in that city so that our people can benefit, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I remember, Mr. Speaker, when the president was talking of ICTs in constituencies, Mr. Speaker. I think these are great idea, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say that, Mr. Speaker, if we can make sure, even through the CDF, Mr. Speaker, and that's why, Mr. Speaker, when I hear people yelling, saying that the CDF is not constitutional, we should do away with the CDF, Mr. Speaker, I know that Kenyans down there, they are crying when they hear such sentiments, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, through CDF, we are capable to do ICT centers in our wards. And Mr. Speaker, I think we also need to support that. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we have ICT centers in our villages, it will help those youths after Form 4. They go to learn computer, they not learn other technologies, Mr. Speaker, because currently, Mr. Speaker, technology is the way to go. I remember, Mr. Speaker, I was challenged by my son, who is in grade 6, Mr. Speaker, grade 4. I was traveling to a city somewhere in Oman. And Mr. Speaker, my son asked me about how is Oman, how is the climate of the place. And Mr. Speaker, by that time I had no idea. Then he went through the phone and Google and learned about, and he told me, Dad, you have to go with these clothes, you have to do this because this place is like this and this and this. Mr. Speaker, I was challenged by my son. Then I said, surely we need to improve technology in our country and we need to embrace it because, Mr. Speaker, it is helping our people and it is also making the coming generation to depend on their own, Mr. Speaker. Through Google, Mr. Speaker, technology has made the world to be a small village, Mr. Speaker. You wake up in the morning and before even 30 minutes, you know what is happening globally, Mr. Speaker, through the technology, Mr. Speaker. That's why I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, without technology, I don't know where as a country we can be heading. And that's why I'm saying when we are supporting technology, Mr. Speaker, we are making our country, taking our country to another level, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, through the technology, Mr. Speaker, we can improve our economy. And Mr. Speaker, if you remember where the Kenya was some years back, Mr. Speaker, but through technology, Mr. Speaker, we have M-Pesa currently, Mr. Speaker, whereby you can do transaction through your phone, you can move with your office, because when you have if you have your phone, you can do all the transactions you want. You can do pay bills, you can also do business with your phones, because, Mr. Speaker, the technology is there for moving of money from your bank. Nowadays, Mr. Speaker, if you go to our banks, you get they are empty because people are using the technology, Mr. Speaker. So I think, Mr. Speaker, this bill came at the right time, and this is a bill whereby we need, as members of parliament, to give it to support it and give it a weight, because I'm telling you, the bill is long overdue, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we also need to attract some investors to invest in our country through technology, Mr. Speaker. And this one is will attract the foreigners, Mr. Speaker, if our laws are good, if we make our laws straight, whereby when an investor is coming to invest in our country, he feels comfortable because he's protected by the law, Mr. Speaker. And I think the committee, that was the thought of the thinking of the committee, Mr. Speaker, because they want to make the law to be straight, to make the law to be favorable to our investors, Mr. Speaker. So I think by supporting this law, by making this bill to be a law, Mr. Speaker, will also improve the economy of this country, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I think with only a few amendments, Mr. Speaker, this bill can be one of the best laws, Mr. Speaker, to help our economy in this country. And Mr. Speaker, I think this is the way to go. And I want to thank KJ, the chair of the committee, and to tell the committee to continue with the good job they are doing, because now we can see light in this ministry through this bill, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Don't remember for Virginia North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the outset, this bill is a very important bill, and I also wish to join my colleagues to appreciate the work done by KJ and his committee members. However, I wouldn't forget one thing, that he has broadened the nomenclature from being technology being reduced to a Konza city issue to today accommodating Wajir North, Bona, Korondile, and Wajir North sub-counties are part and parcel of the Technopolis. Initially, it was limited to Konza. The realization that this technology is a global issue and a countrywide need in itself is worth giving him the accolades he so deserves, and his committee. Mr. Speaker, technology is so important. We have seen the wonders artificial intelligence is doing these days. You don't have even to think. You just ask, why should this? What is this? And everything comes on your phone. Time is of essence these days, courtesy of technology. Efficiency has improved in terms of production and doing work. Mr. Speaker, even in military aspects, environmental, medical issues, farming. Even cattle rustling today has reduced drastically. Banditry has reduced just because the country has deployed a wonderful use of technology, that you can no longer just take a herd of cattle and drive it away for thousands of kilometers and make use of them. The military will catch up with you, or the owners of those herds will be up with you just because technology is at play. That is how technology is in the realm of all facets of our life as a society, Mr. Speaker. But few things. I do accept that there is this ICTA, the authority to regulate and manage the sector, the digital and technological aspects of the sector. But my concern, though not conversant with the law, how does it correlate with the Communication Authority of Kenya? Might there be some duplication? We remember we have a 2010 constitution that is so expensive to implement. The economy is not doing well. Are we coming with more institutions to burden the taxpayers? Can't we have a secretariat within the Communication Authority of Kenya to regulate and manage this sector than coming with another authority? This is just an idea. I am not trying to negate this wonderful bill, but just an idea. Must we create many structures? Must we burden the taxpayers? Isn't it worth having a leaner government that can easily coordinate and deliver efficiently? It's a concern I have. Mr. Speaker, the special economic zones so spread across all constituencies and wards is a welcome move. The hubs, the ICT hubs so espoused by the Kenya Kwanza policy, it goes a long way. This bill goes a long way in implementing and making sure that that happens. Huduma Center, over 3,000 government services have gone digital. And if we take this technology to every ward in this country, Kenyans, constituents, my constituents in Wajir North, which is on the Ethiopian border, do not have to travel 350 kilometers to Wajir town headquarters just to seek a duplicate for an ID card, to seek a birth certificate, a death certificate, some clearance from KRA, all those services that are online. I'm sure this bill is a blessing. It's indeed a blessing and the best of the legislations in the 13th Parliament to make sure that the citizenry have a close interface with their government and service delivery, Mr. Speaker. In as much as I'm talking of all those good things about the bill, there is a danger. In every good thing, there are risks. I can feel there are some inherent risks, controls and checks from anything bad emanating from such kind of legislations, Mr. Speaker. Bill is objective, but how do we secure anything deleterious, dangerous that can come out of it, Mr. Speaker? Of late, we have seen a small falsehood has been spinned in the social media until our country was nearly down during the demos. Yes, picketing demonstration is a right, but the misuse of falsehood, peddling falsehood, lies on social media requires some stringent controls. Stringent controls. Anything that is online cannot be taken as gospel truth. We need serious controls and management of whatever goes through these mechanisms, or technological mechanisms, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the security of the country is paramount, and that is pegged on what we peddle or what goes through these technologies we intend to support, Mr. Speaker. There has been serious moral decadency. Our sisters have been abused, left, center, and right. My senior, Odhiambo, has been complaining just now of what her contribution, going viral across the world. How do we manage this? Why should our female folk be target of bad publicity? Why can't we use the technology in a very objective and constructive way? Authenticity of information is questionable today. That 99% of the information on social media is entirely false. So what will Kenyans consume? The consumers are in a very perilous position. What should they take? What should they consume? So we are at a time to make sure that we regulate on what is right and stop what is wrong. And this correlates with the Cybercrime Act. The Cybercrime Act, I think it must wake up from sleep and make sure that whatever goes around in the internet, in the technologies, is authentic, dependable, and verifiable, Mr. Speaker. One other big risk, we are going through intellectual degradation. Students cannot put a simple word in their right spelling today until they go to Google, Malimu Google. We have lost that capacity. Making a simple sentence structure is a problem, even for graduates of universities. Why? Because of our dependence on these gadgets, technologies. In as much as they are welcome, in as much as we can't do without them, we must ameliorate the impact of these technologies on human capital. Human capital is now becoming a robot, Mr. Speaker. We are no longer natural. We are becoming machines depending on just gadgets. We are losing our capacity that is endowed. So I think technology must complement, should not kill that which is endowed, Mr. Speaker. Without taking much of the time, because my colleagues also want to contribute to the debate, I appreciate this bill and entirely accept and support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Mkuruweni.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I appreciate this opportunity. Honorable Chair, I want to appreciate the bill that has been presented in this National Assembly this afternoon by Honorable Chair KJ, a very diligent young man, I dare say. And of course, Honorable Chair, I went to school in Honorable KJ's constituency. And today, Honorable Emilio Odhiambo has recognized and appreciated how well our school is disciplined, performs in a way that is way better than what the Honorable Majority Leader here has made us to believe, that the Alliance High School is the best school in this republic. But for sure, Lenana School really is way better and performs and produces all-round students who are able to deal with the challenges of life in a much more practical manner. And I want to appreciate Honorable KJ for now. He has built Lenana Primary School, and that is also serving the nation in a way that we would not have thought before. Honorable Chair, I want to come to the debate that we have today about the Technopolis Authority bill that we are now debating. Honorable Chair, as you're well aware, all the way from our primary schools, we are teaching our children on coding. You know, today, almost every other primary school, including public primary schools, we have coding lessons where students are taught on how to do coding right from the time they are young. Honorable Chair, you'll also appreciate that not a long time ago, we did not have smartphones in Kenya, and every other person was just happy to deal with a kabambe, a very small phone that you'd be clicking the buttons. And sometimes they would get rubbed off, and sometimes you'll not even be able to see the alphabets. Honorable Chair, today when you go to up country, you will hear people talk about the touch phones. In my language, they will call it touchy. And older women and old men who are in up country are now able to use the touch phone, and they're able to use the smartphones in a way that you not have thought before. And they're able to communicate, they're able to write messages, and many of them, you'll also find them now in social media groups. And this tells you that people in this country have been able to uptake technology. They have appreciated technology very, very much. If you look at the government programs, they seem also to be moving in the same direction. As we talk today, we have the last mile project, whereby we are having connectivity to every single village in Kenya. Honorable Chair, today as we talk, you know that we have the backbone fiber cable that is headed to Turkana. We have backbone fiber cable that is being put in northeastern Marsabit. You go to Wajir, you go to Garissa, you go to Meru, you go to Nyeri, you even go to my village in Mukurweini. You'll find that we have fiber cables that are being laid. That is a backbone fiber cable that is much bigger. Then you also have the last mile cables that are being either taken through trenches, or some of them are being taken through the Kenya Power posts. Honorable Chair, this tells you that we are making this country a fiber cable cobweb in a way. It's a web that is going to be in every village. And this means that every home, every public institution, every other village, every shopping center, every market is going to have access to fiber optic. It's going to have access to internet. Honorable Chair, it is then important that as a country, we be able to harness this resource that we have been able to take to the last mile. You're also aware, we also have a satellite internet that has now come to this country, and it is penetrating in the villages, even where the fiber cable will not have reached. That means that we then must be able to harness this infrastructure that has been put in our country. If you look at also what is happening with the young people, we have now the content creation. Every other young person with a smartphone is a content creator themselves. Many young people today are able to access the job market abroad. They are able to engage in gainful employment through their smartphones. And that is the reason why we could not have had a better time to have this bill than now, Honorable Chair. That we have someone sitting and thinking about a technopolis that is going now to help us to have the space, to have the opportunity, to have a platform to be able to bring about all these resources that we have. And of course, the most important resource in our country today as we talk is the young people. It is the knowledge that we have with our young generation. Honorable Chair, you know we have AI, artificial intelligence, that has now hit its peak at this point in time. And for that reason, a lot of people now are appreciating the role of AI in the technology in our country. You know very well that what we thought was something that was alien, something that would only be happening in foreign countries, is also happening in Kenya, the issue of use of robotics. We have hotels, even in this city, that are today using robots. I very recently watched a documentary of a hotel somewhere, I think in Kilimani or Lavington, which is using robots to serve the customers and the clients who are getting to that hotel. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate this bill and say that it has come at the right time and say that we need to support it. The only issue that I want to ask the chair to look at is to ensure that as we're transitioning from the Konza Technopolis to a Technopolis that is going to be serving the whole country, or an authority that is going to be serving the whole country, we ensure that we also keep it lean. so that we do not also introduce much more bureaucracy. We also don't overburden the taxpayers, because you know we have a challenge in this country whereby every time we have an authority, we have a parastatal, we have a new body that is created through this parliament. And of course, that also means that we end up having a challenge of too many cost centers and so many agencies and sagas that we have to fund from the budget. And so for that reason, I want to request the chair to ensure that as we are looking at this authority, we make it lean and ensure that doesn't add more burden to Kenyans than what we already have. And it's important that we look at what we already have in terms of Konza City. We use that infrastructure without having to make it more bulky and without having to make it more top heavy, to ensure that it is able to serve the Republic without having to look for more people and more costs that are going to add to this. Honorable Speaker, as I finish, I want to say that we must also appreciate the issue of regulation. In this era of technology, we are finding that our people are running too much on misinformation and disinformation. And so we must ensure that we are using the issue of, we are looking at the Kenya Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act afresh to ensure that it is able to control and have more guided penalties on people who go against the set rules and regulations. This is going to help our people to run much more on proper information than misinformation and disinformation. For disinformation and misinformation can truly bring a country down, where people are given the wrong information and they take it to be true. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. I submit.
To honorable members, there being no further interest on this particular bill, I now call upon the mover to reply.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you. And allow me, as I'm thanking you, to also appreciate the contributions of all the members who have spoken to this, and at the same time, also appreciate the ministry, the drafters, and the parliamentary staff who have helped us to get to this stage. Mr. Speaker, in replying, I ought to say that the Konza Technopolis Development Authority already exists. However, that authority is limited only to the purview of that area called Konza. And what this bill is seeking to do is to make sure that if Kenya decides to establish another technopolis out of Konza, there shall be a legal framework for it. Presently, even at Konza, which is alive because of the Kenya Technopolis Development Authority, exists only for 10 years. However, even in Konza, they are leasing land for 10 years that are going up to 90 years. So what this bill is seeking to do is to transition the Konza Technopolis Development Authority into the Technopolis Authority that covers way beyond Konza. This is because of the reasons that members are giving here. Honorable Speaker, I have sat through this debate. Amazing bills that have been put onto this bill. Great start. You know, we had the Honorable Wakili Murugara starting us off with great insights as to why we stand to benefit by making sure that this bill allows us to have Technopolis in other places other than Konza. He went into the deep detail of telling us how we stand to benefit with the transition clauses that are provided in this bill. And I want to thank the Honorable Murugara. I want to also thank the Honorable Karemba, the Honorable Mawathe, all who contributed to this. And this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, we had Dr. Undo putting in some amazing bills. He was talking to us about the potential misuse of technology and how we can use the provisions that we are putting in this new bill to curb against that. And that is a theme that has run across many members talking to us about the dangers of technology and why we need to mitigate against that. Honorable Wundo is asking us whether this bill purports to usurp the powers of the planning department. And I stand here to say no. When we build Technopolis, we are not taking any power out of any existing entity. In fact, for us to be able to see it visually in our mind, it would take two things. One, to visit the Kenya Technopolis, the Konza Technopolis, and see what development is happening there as Kenya works on developing its own Silicon Valley. And Mr. Speaker, I have to report to you that as we speak today, almost all horizontal infrastructure that is needed for Konza is already in place. And in fact, now Konza is working on the vertical development, and Konza is now ready to even attract multinational big tech companies to come and invest in Konza, because the installations there, the smart installations there, allow for us to have the first ever silicon savanna in the continent, and thus propelling Kenya to the front of the pile in terms of development. Mr. Speaker, there was a concern from Dr. Oundo asking us, how do we deal with the issue of humanizing technology? And it is a real issue, Mr. Speaker, that even as we are developing and advancing so fast to digitize, we ought to remember that we ought to be humanizing the digital systems more than the digital systems digitize us as humans. Because we would not want a place where technology comes to replace human intelligence or replace human knowledge. Honorable Rindikiri is saying that there is an opportunity to connect the digital innovation hubs that we are building in our constituencies to the Technopolis that shall be built going forward. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Millie Odhiambo was on the floor a bit earlier, and she did speak to us about the governance issues. And I want to agree with her. And on that, I would not even want to even have a pushback, because she would have a better understanding as a wakili, but even more so, she would understand the provisions that are given by Mwongozo. And so it is for the authority, when it is formed, to take into consideration that in governance, we must include our young people. We must include both genders in the running and governance of this Technopolis. Honorable Millie Odhiambo was also telling us that this is a good opportunity to formalize this whole technology space. And there is an opportunity granted even by this Technopolis bill. And she also did contribute on the negative technological spin-offs that are in the offing, and she did put some very good bills to that. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Gathoni Wamuchomba was keen to let us know that we are not only talking about today, but the future. She was propelling us into a future that we can imagine ourselves. So rather than hope for a good future, she's saying to us, let us imagine that good future that we want. She is saying to us that we ought to reserve land for future development. We have to find a way of ensuring that we are thinking beyond our lifetimes. But most importantly, Honorable Gathoni Wamuchomba was asking whether we can have a Technopolis in every constituency and county. And Honorable Speaker, allow me to inform the Honorable Gathoni Wamuchomba, because she does know that a Technopolis is in itself a city. It is constituencies that will have to be fitting in our Technopolis and not the other way around. Honorable Kimilu, a former member of this CII committee, he himself, sitting and neighboring Konza Technopolis, is giving us all the benefits that there is to having such a city, sitting astride 3 counties, the county of Machakos, the county of Kajiado, and the county of Makueni. And he is saying to us that we need to think of how to put more resources so we can have more Konzas in this republic. He is also calling upon us to think about how to attract more investment into such amazing developments like the Technopolis. The Honorable Saneh Ibrahim was talking to us about how this bill goes to equalizing and being able to bridge the digital gap. Mr. Speaker, I took that very seriously. We sit in a parliament called the IPU with the Honorable Wakili Millie Odhiambo. And she will tell you that when we stand on the floor of that global parliament, the parliament of parliaments, bringing together 186 parliaments, we are championing for data representation. We are championing for the reduction of the divide between the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere in terms of data representation. We are keen to ensure that Africa does not slip through the fourth industrial revolution. And so what the Honorable Saneh is saying to us is important and it is critical. Honorable Saneh did ask, is Konza Authority combined with ICTA, combined with Communications Authority, are they duplicating roles? And the answer there, Mr. Speaker, is simple. No. In fact, Communications Authority is a regulator, ICTA is an implementing authority. And so the roles are very well defined and they sit well in a sector that is able to produce enough A&A to run all these bodies that we're talking about. As we speak today, ICTA is asking our committee to increase the bar for them, for their AI, their A&A. They're able to even generate more A&A than what Treasury is giving them as a ceiling. Honorable Kagushia is the one who has closed this debate, but Mr. Speaker, you shall give me the latitude to donate my final minute to a member who is here with us, the Honorable Bernard Kitur, and that shall be with the discretion of the chair. But Honorable Kagushia brought to the attention of this House that coding is an important and integral part of our syllabus today, if we haven't made it. That even some of the courses that we are giving to our learners, some of them might be obsolete by the time these learners graduate. The Honorable Gathoni Mwamushomba was reciting to us that she has been to a meeting where a coffee factory has closed. And in that coffee factory, she found 3 degree holders holding extremely good papers, but are not employed. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we have to ensure that our curriculum and our syllabus is not only relevant for today, but relevant even for the future. Honorable Kagushia is calling upon us to ensure that when we are creating new authorities and new bodies, to make sure that they are lean. And this is a concern that is addressing the austerity measures that are required for this republic, and I want to agree with him. He's also calling upon us to revisit a bill and an act of parliament that was brought by our committee, the Kenya Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act. And I'm imagining that he's calling upon this parliament to relook at it because of some of the happenings, of recent happenings in the country, where misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, and even blatant fake news and deep fakes are becoming a part of our national conversation, where, Mr. Speaker, you're not even able to tell the difference between the real news, the fake news, the deep fakes, and even outright lies. And he warns us that this has the potential of burning our country. But the Honorable Kagushia also has some good things to say to us by reminding us that this bill and the creation of Technopolis around the country also gives us an opportunity to take advantage of the already existing infrastructure, the infrastructure that we're developing, and also to give an opportunity to some of the young people who are technologically savvy to be able to serve their country. And I want to say to Honorable Kagushia that these young people shall not only be serving the country, they shall also be feeding in data that shall form part of data sets that shall be fueling the next revolution, which is a data revolution in the new emerging technologies, up to and including artificial intelligence. And so Honorable Kagushia might be well informed to run ahead and install and institute digital innovation hubs in his constituency that would be able to join our young people into this big Kenya Superhighway digital program that is in the offing and as such benefit his constituents. Honorable Speaker, the long and short of it is that this Technopolis bill gives this country the opportunity to realize the aspirations that are espoused in Kenya Vision 2030 that seeks to create Kenya into a knowledge-based economy so that we can contribute into this new world where the race is already on for who shall be championing the fourth industrial revolution takeover. And we believe that this gives an advantage to Africa if Africa was able to jump onto the bandwagon so that we can see more Konzas, more Technopolis around the country, so that we will not only be talking about one Technopolis, which is Kotda, but Technopolis in every corner of this country. Mr. Speaker, invoking standing order number 1, I would like to ask you, just out of your discretion, to kindly give a minute to the honorable member for Nandi Hills, just to put in a word or a comment on this, because I do understand that after the mover has moved, I know the only thing he may be able to do is to put in a comment. Honorable Speaker, I do move that this parliament passes the Kenya Technopolis bill. I thank you. And I beg to reply.
Thank you so much. I would have loved to give the Honorable Ketura a chance, but what will you be contributing on? You've already made your closing argument. You've replied. You were given a chance before you started. Yeah, Honorable Ketura, I'm sorry. But, that's what I'm saying no to. You've already closed the debate and asked us to move to the next stage of the bill. So it is not possible that happens. That is why you always ask chairs, order, the Honorable KJ. That's why you ask chairs to understand the rules. If you want to donate your time, you donate before. I understand that really. Yeah, correct. The Honorable member for Suba South.
Mr. Speaker, I rise under Standing Order number 35 to draw your attention, yes, to the question of quorum in the House, because there are very important bills that are coming up for second reading, and I think it would be grossly unfair to discuss those bills in the current state of the House, particularly the ones on ethics and anti-corruption, as well as even the ones I was supposed to move. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, the matter raised by the Honorable member for Suba South is self-explanatory. And as you know, when that happens, my hands immediately get tired. I therefore order the quorum bell to be rung for 10 minutes. The bell can be stopped. Honorable members, time now being 6:41 p.m. This House stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 1st of October, 2024 at 2:30 p.m.
The city of Tshwane's executive mayor, at least for now, Celia Brink, certainly said to know his fate today when
Unatazama Sound Candy Talk. Toa sauti yako usikike. Tunajipenyeza kwenye vitongoji, mijini na jijini kukuletea matokeo ya matukio kila yanavyoibuka. Mbashara. Tazama Sound Candy Talk kwa habari sahihi. Tuko bora kwenye mitandao ya YouTube, Facebook, TikTok na X kwa taarifa tendeti, udadavuzi mwafaka na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu. Tazama Sound Candy Talk upate ufahamu. Unatazama Sound Candy Talk. Toa sauti yako usikike. Kutoka Mkuyuni, Makueni County hadi Mkuyuni, Bumula, Bungoma County. Hii ni Sound Candy Talk.